Welcome back to Who Doesn't Have a Podcast that feels seen by the latest episode of Doctor Who. So all three of us are fresh from seeing the latest episode of Doctor Who, Lux, and I thought it'd be cool. So one-word answers, please. I'll go first. Yes or no, did we like it? I'll start. A resounding yes. Over to Dan.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
He's done it. Russell T Davies has finally done it.
So we've got a freer. Here's what I get from your tones. So I'll say, so I'm really high on this episode. I think this is one of the best episodes we've seen in years, if not Doctor Who history. Dan, I felt like your yes with a caveat, and Jerome, I think your yes is very much like my yes. Am I right in that?
Yes.
No, mainly yes. Well, do you want to lead on this first, Mike? Because I feel like you've got a lot to say about this. I think we all do, but I'm interested to hear what you think first.
So I'll give it a quick introduction. We were excited for this episode, weren't we, Dan?
It's on, yeah.
Long commented about the Mr. Ring-a-Ding coming out of the screen, and in terms of how he was realised and those scenes, I thought that's exactly what we expected. The episode itself goes to places that I did not expect it to go to. It surprised me at every turn, and yeah. How about we start with, okay, I haven't really thought about this, but how about we start with or we just go straight into it? How about we go straight into the big shock of the episode, which is them coming out of the TV screen and meeting fans of Doctor Who? What I want to say from the off is one of our theories on this podcast, we've picked up that theory that they might be in a TV show. As a series arc, I think that now is probably not true because what they did in this episode. I think it would be repeating. But let's start in the middle. Let's start when they come out of the TV screen. Did anyone see that coming?
I only saw it coming because I'd accidentally seen some of the early reviews. So it was kind of given away before I saw the episode, which was a bit of a shame. Yeah, it's certainly a unique spin on the show, I have to say. I don't know if it went as well as I thought it would have done. I thought when it was referenced again at the very end, it was like, yes, okay, I just thought of us three immediately then. I just thought, okay, fantastic. I don't know, I just thought it was such a very unexpected turn, and how that's going to relate to the whole Mrs. Flood thing. I'm curious to see kind of what relevance that has, because you wouldn't just do that for the sake of doing it. It's got to have some kind of meta ultimate meaning by the conclusion. Yeah, I thought it was a very funny spin on Doctor Who fans. I thought it was maybe a bit of a sort of reference at points. I have made a note of it on my phone somewhere, but it was something to do with the fact that it was almost like a reference of maybe the show coming to an end, or maybe some kind of messing about Doctor Who kind of running its course. And I don't know whether
you've opened up a Pandora's box here. So there's a really interesting article, I think, published in Variety, which I read after watching the show, which we'll talk about in a bit, but it's very interesting about what you just said. Okay, yeah. Let's swing to Jerome, his sort of thoughts on that bit, and then we'll come back to it.
I don't entirely know how I feel about it, is my honest opinion. Not to take it on like, a weird downer, because I don't necessarily think it's a downer point. I just really don't know how I feel about it. Because when it happened, I thought like similar to Dan, I think it was like funny. I think it was kind of like a really unique concept for like to do that, and I think it will play a massive part for like the series arc. So how you were saying, Mike, about the TV show thing, I don't think that scene happens unless there's going to be a callback to it or a build on that for later in the series to do with Mrs. Flood at the end. I don't think it happens otherwise. I think that my personal feeling...
I'm sorry. I mean, they are still alive at the end, aren't they? So the whole big emotional thing of that is that they die. So that's a really good point, Jerome. Maybe it's a trick, and maybe that wasn't Lux. Maybe that was Mrs. Flood doing whatever the hell that was.
Yeah. I mean, Mrs. Flood has definitely got some sort of relation to Lux. So there's got to be some sort of relationship to Mrs. Flood, even if they don't directly know each other, because otherwise what's she doing in 1952 Miami? I feel like all of this, the fact that the TARDIS bounce back to Earth. There has to be some sort of kind of umbrella field that even the Doctor reference kind of ongoing. My personal feeling with regards to just that scene, without going on to everything else just for now, I felt it went on too long, personally.
Yeah, correct.
I think that actually it would have been fine if it had just been a sort of like they come through the TV, there's Doctor Who fans, similar to the Christmas episode with, is it Anita? I can never remember her name. I think it's Anita. Like with the TARDIS. So like the links there, like a small build on of that would have done it for me. And that would have been fine. And it'd been like, oh my God moment, kind of going back in. But then when they were kind of talking, I understand the concept of like giving away the ending before it happens, but I didn't like it, I don't think. But that's a taste thing, a personal taste thing. I think, and I feel like there's maybe more social commentary in that scene as well that's playing on, maybe, because I know that I think Russell's come out this week, hasn't he? And he's already said stuff about like Doctor wokeness and all this. So I don't know. I think there's a lot at play there. I found it unique, not shitting on it at all. I thought it was unique. I thought it was a really interesting, like the whole breaking the fourth wall thing, really clever. The way they got through the screen, really clever. I just don't know if it's for me, but that yeah. I need time to think on it more, I think.
Yeah, I think Jerome hits nail on the head. It kind of outstayed its welcome. I think if it had just been a quick blast, like a jump in and a hop out, you'd been like, okay, that's quite good. I thought it was hilarious when they were talking about the favourite episode of Blink. It was just like a unanimous thing. I thought that was such a brilliant bit of fan service there. But I think beyond that, it just kind of dragged a little bit too much. And I think it came at the cost of the main narrative of the story with Mr. Ringaling and the whole kind of Miami plot. It detracted way too much from that, I felt. And I feel like we'd lost a lot of the... It was a bit similar to the first episode in a sense, where you kind of had the projector man and his story of clearly his partner who he'd lost and she was brought back to life in the film. And then all of a sudden, like, he takes his own life and then to kind of sacrifice him to save everybody else. And I just felt like it kind of lost a bit of an impact there because we didn't know much about him other than that. I don't know, I felt like it could have provided a bit more time to that. And then when that plot twist kicked in, we would have had a bit more of an emotional oomph from it. If there was a whole episode dedicated to that, breaking the fourth wall and suddenly being in like a TV thing, that would have been a great premise for an entire episode. I just think trying to balance the two, it probably didn't work out as well as it maybe could have done.
Can I add just one more thing? Because I really want to hear what you have to say about this, Micah. But just one thing I'd quickly add is, so last week you were talking about the robot revolution. You were talking about the side character who dies in about 90 seconds. I kind of like defended that one because I was like, I get it. I get the idea of like, we've been here and done it and things. So how you were feeling about that last week is kind of how I feel about these three this week, where it was kind of like, you know, the idea that they were like, when they were saying like, none of this is real, none of it exists, they're just going to, you know, cease at that point. Obviously they don't. We know that now at the end of the episode, but that kind of sort of emotive pull with Sad Man in a Box, which is a lovely throwback, but it just felt unearned for me. It just sort of, and I don't know whether that's partly because of just the running time. You just have to like squeeze this all into one episode. I agree maybe with Dan. It would have been awesome to see that over an episode, just that concept. But I think when it's tricky. But go on, Mike. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, we might get that because if we're thinking that they do actually do this story within a story thing, we might actually get more of a full episode. I don't like TV shows talking to themselves and going super meta. One of my favorite TV shows is Community, which has a character that Abed who is always commenting on the show and what's happening in it, but he's always undercut by the people around him who go, you know, it makes people uncomfortable when you say that. Like he's always undercut within the story, and it always has a narrative purpose. Anyone watch She-Hulk, the Marvel show?
I didn't watch it.
Can't say I have.
She-Hulk was like a procedural Marvel show that came out a couple of years ago, and it was like a case of the week thing. And in the final episode, the action pauses, and then She-Hulk herself like climbs out of the Disney Plus screen onto the Disney Plus splash screen with all of the Disney Plus like icons and stuff, and that's as meta TV show. It was awful. She-Hulk was fine, but that I had no idea. I had no idea why they decided to do that. I think in the comics she's a bit like Deadpool. She like comments on things all the time, but it just I was like, this is rubbish. In this one, interestingly, when they kind of did the same thing, I was like a huge fan of it. Like I loved it, especially what you said, Dan. I loved the commentary on Blink and how they play that joke so well. Where and then he starts rattling off some of his other adventures that he's really proud of, and they just cut him off and go, "No, it's Blink."
Yeah.
And my wife watched it, and she was like, "Blink is the best episode, isn't it?" I love that. I thought they handled that really well. I don't know if it would work as an overstretched episode because I think people tire of that stuff quite quickly. I thought it was quite a successful bit of like meta scenery, like meta commentary on the show. There's a larger point here. So I read an article, it was in IGN afterwards, and the title is this, I'll put it on the screen when we edit it, but is Doctor Who planting leaks in its own show to mess with fans? So one of the standout parts of that scene is that character says R.I.P. Doctor Who. And then at the end, Mrs. Flood says the show ends on, and then gives the date that it ends on, you know. So apparently over the past few weeks, a leaker online called Andrew has been dropping specific plot points for series 2 of Doctor Who, and they've been detailed beat by beat, and one of them was this, that he climbs out of the TV show. And there is a theory out there that, let me just read it, because it is quite interesting. Most interestingly, one of the fans turns to the camera and says, "I knew this would happen because it leaked online, R.I.P. Doctor Who." So the Doctor climbing out of the screen and talking to fans is commented on from one of the fans within the scene. So it says, "I knew this would happen because it leaked online, R.I.P. Doctor Who." And then the article goes on to say this scene was filmed 2 years ago because it was series 1 and series 2 of this new era were filmed back to back. So they say that there's a few possibilities here. First, maybe it's all a coincidence. The leaks were unintentional, and the standout line in Lux is simply one of those absurd once in a blue moon alignments of fiction and reality. Second, somehow Russell T Davies has a prophet-like vision, saw it all come in 2 years in advance and wrote it in. Or third, what if the leaks weren't accidental? So there's a couple from the opening. So this leaker leaked things from the opening episode that were accurate, and now they've also done some in the follow-up. Think about what we think we know about next week's episode, that it could be a midnight sequel if that comes to light, you know. So they go on to say perhaps they were planted deliberately, but only small, mostly harmless tidbits, and are meant to prime the fandom discussions without giving too much away. And think about something else. This at the end of the episode says the show ends on, and then lists the date of the finale. What if the show doesn't end, and what if we've got a surprise? Because what I'm trying to say is all of this stuff's been leaking. We've heard so much stuff about Doctor Who potentially being cancelled. We've heard about shooting Gatwa's regeneration. We've heard about all of these. What if it's all on purpose? What if Andrew, this leaker, is Russell T Davies or people from the Doctor Who production team who are putting these stories out there to mess with the fans in like a meta way? There we go.
Yeah, I could see some truth behind that. I mean, it's funny enough that you mentioned the whole Doctor Who RIP thing, because that ended up trending on Twitter. That went worldwide.
Did it?
After the episode aired. So they've made it a proper talking point in social media circles. I mean, again, it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. And maybe that's the sort of thing that's going to get exacerbated as the series goes on. Maybe they will start throwing in things that maybe aren't in the episodes, just to kind of really mislead fans, because we know, like, all this has been played out on social media ever since Ncuti Gatwa got the role. It's all been there, probably more than it has any other era of Doctor Who.
Like, so Disney's pulling out, or Ncuti Gatwa's regenerating.
Totally. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they play the negative press against the leaks, and again, the fact that the show goes meta and acknowledges that it's too on the nose to be coincidental. And I think Russell T Davies is too intelligent a writer to not take advantage of that either.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But yeah, it's a really interesting point there about.
Can I just
Again,
read this?
Yeah, go for it.
And what about that RIP Doctor Who line? With no renewal announcement from Disney and radio silence from the BBC, Davies hasn't exactly done much to quell fears of a looming hiatus, even hinting at a break in interviews like his recent one with BBC's Newsround. So keeping that line in feels deliberate. Feels deliberate, right? R.I.P. Doctor Who, and then Mrs. Flood at the end of the episode being like the show ends on, can't remember the date off the top of my head.
Limited run show May 24th. I've got it written down here.
It goes two ways. Maybe the show gets cancelled on May 24th and it's all just like funny and we think about it for years and like, oh, they wrote that into the show. That's so funny. But maybe it's also hot off the heels of the series 2 finale, the show gets renewed for another 2 years with the Disney. And also, I was thinking about what you said, Dan, about the Graham Norton thing, where Ncuti Gatwa said that he was about to film the series 3 and then that was cut. What if that was cut for?
I don't know. I think again with the way they're kind of angling it, I think the whole sort of narrative of it being within a TV show version of itself or within the mindset of a character starts to maybe have a bit of traction after this episode. And I know it's a bit too on the nose, but then again, we've already commented it on the past ever since the Disney takeover, because it's a global audience now. There's not a lot of nuance or subtlety. A lot of it is kind of in your face. Got to make it obvious. Maybe this is one of those plot points.
I'll say if the next episode is a sequel to Midnight, then I'm convinced that the leaks are deliberate, because that's a very specific leak.
100%.
And this series specifically has been the victim of quite substantial leaks.
Yeah, I'm just listening in, kind of sort of taking it all in. I think, yeah, it could be really interesting. It could be an amazing sort of like Easter egg that's been building for the last few years. I'm just also worried that it's going to alienate a huge section of the fan base. As in
1 million of them.
All 1 million of them, yeah. 900,000 would be all right. That's all you need. But I do, yeah, I don't know. I just maybe it's because I'm just looking at it through like the sort of general viewership, because I'll be honest, like I have been quite careful. Obviously, like we talk about stuff on here and I'll like kind of listen to stuff, but I've been quite careful to just remove myself from spoilers or kind of reviews and not read stuff. No, that's fine. But just in terms of like, I'm trying to sort of watch it live. But I do think like there's a point in this, because it's like it is becoming quite meta. It's becoming more than just the show, and the idea of the fourth wall breaks, like all of these leaks happening, everything kind of beds into that idea. So I think it's entirely possible. I think it's just if you're watching it for like pure sci-fi entertainment or escapism or whatever, I get the, but maybe they want to move in that direction, right? And they're not bothered about, and it's kind of started. It's series 2. It's not series 17 or whatever. I don't know. It will be interesting to see how it pans out for sure.
Because... in terms of alienating people, sorry, I was thinking, what is the one thing that everybody always talks about? So people who aren't interested in Doctor Who get on GB News and talk about how the Doctor Who's too woke and it's about to get cancelled like that. That is the thing that gets people talking. Russell T Davies is a really, really clever showrunner. And I think he knows that. And he knew that 2 years ago when they were filming this. So I'm like, so what if it is all deliberate? And what if part of the marketing is getting people all riled up who don't actually watch the show? They just comment on the show when it suits their agenda. So what if that's just all part of it?
And like you said as well, like to play devil's advocate as well, because again, it's very unique in the sense that it was all shot in bulk quite a while ago. Maybe the kind of concept for these two series maybe hasn't got the fans on side in the way they would have hoped, trying something new. And that's maybe why, because we shared that Radio Times article, this has been one of the lowest viewed live broadcast episodes in the history of Doctor Who. I think it's 1.5 million that watched it on Saturday night. Now, again, we've said for a while that because it's now premiering on iPlayer and before it is broadcast, maybe that's taking a lot of the factor away from that. The fans are overwhelmingly positive about this episode, so it can't be something totally wrong, because this is one of the few episodes that all three of us are in agreement of. It's a good episode, so it's a strong episode of Doctor Who.
It's possibly Disney's strongest episode. since Disney got on board. It's possibly like the strongest episode, I think, because it was unhinged and zany.
Yeah,
and that was very kind of Sorry, Michael.
It's what you imagine a Doctor Who Disney partnership episode would look like, right?
Oh, totally. And I think using Mr. Dingaling, I mean, the fact the song is catchy as hell, it really, really properly is. I think the animated going into when he does kind of burst into life, it was like something out of creepypasta. It's like absolutely unhinged and terrifying. And I thought this, in the sort of messed up way possible, that is what we've been missing from Who, is something that you are genuinely a bit unnerved by watching, going, fucking hell, like this is really frightening. So I thought the animated move on this character was fantastic.
I thought that was the strongest part of the episode, was Mr. Dingdong. Because
we're all just gonna let's just get this out now. Dan, you've been calling him Mr. Dingaling. Jerome just called him Mr. Dingdong. His name's Mr. Ring-a-Ding. Okay, Mr. Ring.
Too far off. Jerome called him a doorbell.
I assume that was intentional, Jerome. That was chef's kiss.
Thank you. No, seriously. I did think Mr. Ring-a-Ding was the strongest. Like, it just brilliantly done, and obviously that's where a lot of the money went in this episode, because there wasn't too much of a sub crowd in terms of like other characters in this episode, and the fact that let's just get rid of them at the beginning and have an empty cinema kind of says that that's where all the budget was going. But it was brilliant. I thought the animation was genuine, so slick. It was so good, really, really well done. Very stylish effects. I agree with you, Dan. Like the sort of creepypasta nature of that was actually quite very uneasy, very just very unsettling. Especially with like those really kind of sort of furrowed eyebrows and like the eyes really kind of popping and stuff. It was quite horrible to watch that transformation. And I think conceptually as well, it was so unique. Just to have it, and the idea of like how, because people have been talking online, like you were saying, Mike, for ages about how this is possible for a cartoon to take up this sort of position and to make it light and follow the gods thing was very, very clever. I thought very, very well done. And I thought as well, Alan Cumming was just brilliant. Like the voice just was so like on point. It was, and I think like, and this is maybe a slight thing I noticed, but like if you look for instance at his vocal performance, and then when Ncuti and he was doing that, we've been joined.
It's me.
But when the Doctor and Belinda when first became animated characters and they were 2D, I understand there was the whole idea of two-dimensional brain, but the voices just didn't match up for me. I just found it very jarring, and maybe that was the point. Maybe that was the purpose of what they're trying to do with it. But it felt really, really jarring. Whereas, like Alan's performance was, it just felt it was so smooth. It was so smooth. I genuinely loved it.
It was amazing.
But no, the only thing, but it was, it was, and every time he was on screen, it was just a villain or an antagonist. Every time he was on screen, I was so happy, or I was excited to see what you're going to do next. Like it was the first time I've seen a villain where I was like, I suppose one of my criticisms of the episode would be, and I totally understand why they did the mid-break with the three of them. I get it, but I just felt, and this sort of makes me think of the Robot Revolution as well, is just that lack of conflict. I just felt there was lack of conflict between the protagonist and the antagonist. And to be fair, Lux didn't feel like he was all evil. There's that scene with Mr. Pie where he's actually like sobbing a tear when he puts him back with his wife and stuff, and wants to become this, like, wants to ascend into the light, and obviously links into the nuclear bomb and stuff, but it doesn't feel like he's out and out evil. It just feels like he's got his own agenda and his own mission, sort of thing. But it was a shame, because I'd have liked to have seen more of the Doctor going up against that force. And I feel like because of the mid-break, it kind of was like, here's a really amazing cartoon character. Now forget about that for a bit, and then we're going to resolve it at the end. And I just felt it would have been great to like see more of
because
that.
of how much money it would have taken to animate that character.
Probably. But in general though, I thought it was
cameo
good.
from Dan's dad.
Dan's dad. That's Mr. Dingdong, isn't it?
It's Mr. Dada Ding.
The only other thing I'd say on it though, and we can come round to this if you guys want to speak about Mr. Ringerding first, but one other thing that did annoy me, and this is maybe just me, can we stop, please, overusing regeneration energy? I'm getting bored now.
Oh, like, I loved it.
It just annoys me because I understand the concept of it being an extension of light and, you know, like, but I just feel like regeneration is meant to be such a particular moment that kind of, you know, has its pride and place. It's like, it's the Doctor's ultimate trick. It's the Doctor's ultimate power. And he's just like, for the last 3-4 series, he's just been using it willy-nilly to like do everything, cure everything, solve everything. It is starting to grind on me.
Split himself.
Like, you just don't feel like it's like, well, this guy, there's no weakness here, there's no flaws here. We'll just use a bit of regeneration energy and it's sort of all out. And it just annoyed me.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Jerome. For me, I feel like they're trying to cram too much into it, but kind of simplify it. So like stuff like that is meant to be impactful. It's meant to be quite a significant moment within that Doctor's era. Same with the characters, same with a lot of these other plot points. They don't feel fully fleshed out in the way that they used to. They don't feel like they're sort of there for the sake of being there rather than having a real purpose or meaning behind it. And I feel like there's been quite a few of the New Era Who episodes where they've had an idea, they've kind of thrown it in, but they've not really done much with it to impact you or to kind of be significant. And I think now they're just kind of throwing it out there for the sake of throwing it out there because they know it's a new audience and they're trying to like bring in some of these older ideas and concepts and aspects of the Doctor. But like you said, when you start to use it or rehash it often enough, it kind of loses all significance. And it just becomes like, oh, he's got this regeneration energy, he can just sort himself out there. And then it's not like only when he's knocking at death's door do we then see that. And
I just feel like, and I can see Mike's got something to say, so I'll keep this brief. Ever since Matt Smith, there was the crack in the sky and the Time Lords were like, you can have as much as you want. It just feels like they've really been liberal with that now. Since, you know, the idea of not being able to, you know, like have certain amount of lives and have to like, since that's gone, it's kind of like, whatever, regeneration, baby, like bit of regen power, it's fine. It's like, it's almost become like, you know, Duracell Ultra battery, which is fine. but it's, you know, but Mike,
especially for this villain. Yeah. Just quickly on Mr. Ringerding is Russell T Davies has said that he had this idea years ago, but the technology was never there, so they were never able to do it in a way. You could easily see a version of this episode that would have been done 5 years ago, but it would have just been lost in the ether because of the effects at the time. This seems like the perfect marriage between what Disney are able to accomplish and what Doctor Who is as an eccentric show. And that character, along with Alan Cumming's performance, I think we're looking at an all-time villain. I think Mr. Ringerding is going to go down in history as one of the all-time great Doctor Who villains with like the Weeping Angels and the Daleks due to legacy, but the Daleks are just intrinsically ridiculous. The Weeping Angels are amazingly scary. Mr. Ringerding is, because of the performance and the animation and the way that Mr. Ringerding conducts himself, how everything he does is a cartoon. When the Doctor says that loads of people went missing in this cinema and the music plays and he cries, and then how he slips under that door, and the song, and how he gets trapped in the song, and how he says, "I'll get you," but he can't because he's dancing. It was unbelievable. And how he's going up the stairs, but he's too small and he's got like sweat coming off his face. I just thought it was perfectly realized as a villain.
Yeah.
And another thing I thought about while you were just both speaking about leaks and stuff as well is regeneration. So bi-generation. The bi-generation was heavily leaked as well. Heavily leaked. I read an article a few days before the giggle in which it was just explicitly said that David Tennant and Ncuti Gatwa were going to split in two. So maybe that was leaked on purpose as well. On bi-generation, Jerome, or regeneration, I agree with you. I think it is a bit oversaturated, but I think it worked perfectly well as a logical resolution to this story, where this creature is the god of light, regeneration is like light, and then the regeneration energy just gets pumped into Mr. Ringerding, and then he just grows and grows and grows. I thought it was a really satisfying end to this. And then
No, so, which I agree with you on that point. Like I understand, and I think it was good. I think I've just been scarred by everything previous, which may, to be fair, maybe isn't fair, right? On this particular moment, it just feels like at the moment they've got that kind of, you know, like there's that line at the end where it's like, how do we get out of this week? Regeneration, or, you know, regenerative power, or like, but no, I think you're right. I think it's a fair point, Mike. I think in terms of the standalone, in terms of how that worked, I think it was a satisfying resolve. I think I've just been burdened by previous, is all.
I agree.
One thing that did make me laugh, particularly with the meta bit with the fans, is that
Don't make me laugh.
It was that as well, which is brilliant, but also with the viewers. I can't remember if it was Jerome or Mike, which one of you two's mentioned in the past, but you've always mentioned something about the third act of Doctor Who's where everything starts to happen. The fact that they even referenced that within the episode with the fans, I just thought was frustrating, because it's like, okay, you know it's a bit daft. Stop doing it. But also it's like, at least you're acknowledging it, so it's a bit like, okay, it's funny. Another episode, another time the Doctor cries.
Yeah.
And again, I know there's probably going to be some significant ending to this. It's getting on my nerves now. It's every single episode he cries. And it's even with this one, it felt less significant, because at least these characters didn't die. They weren't shot by a robot. They just kind of almost became nothing, but they were still something in the end. I hope to God that has an actual purpose or meaning, because it's just getting so
men
boring.
can cry too. Time Lords can cry too.
They can cry, and I'm not to defend it. I'm not saying they can't, but it's every outing. It's every single. We've had a series and a half of this so far. It's every episode.
Can I say this, because I don't know if it landed before as a point, but there, with these deliberate leaks, this episode was filmed 2 years ago, back to back with series 1. So two years ago this was filmed, and in the episode they say, "I saw this coming because it was leaked online." And 2 weeks ago, a leaker called Andrew leaked that the Doctor was going to come out of the TV screen and meet some fans. Within the scene, it's commented that it's been leaked online, and the scene was filmed 2 years ago, and the information was leaked 2 weeks ago.
So do you think Andrew is Russell T Davies?
Someone from the Doctor Who production team, yeah.
Yeah,
and I think it's being done. I think it's being done purposefully as a meta marketing campaign. And I think everything that we've heard over the past few weeks, the reshoots, Ncuti Gatwa regenerating, Doctor Who being cancelled by Disney, I think all of that might be planted information. Whether it's true or not, I don't think. I think we'll probably see at the end of the series, despite the ratings, the overnight ratings that we can talk about, I think we're probably going to see a surprise. What's it called? It's been picked up again. Maybe, and also in the past few weeks, Russell T Davies talked to Newsround about how there might be a hiatus, and I think it's all planned. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
Because I think it's so weird. It was filmed 2 years ago, and someone a fan in the scene says, "I heard about this because it was leaked online," and it was leaked online 2 weeks ago. That's deliberate. There has to be deliberate.
Speaking of deliberate, I didn't. Again, I only picked this up because I was watching it on iPlay and it froze in the final bit of credits. Did anyone else notice, particularly in this episode, not last week, the sort of title card at the end, the kind of code number, the Roman numerals is 2024, not 2025.
I didn't notice that, no.
It's a small thing. I don't know whether it's because they wrapped everything up last year, so it's technically a 2024 production, but normally the BBC, particularly with a new show, it will be absolutely the year of broadcast. And I didn't know if that had some reference or it was like an in-joke to the fact that he can't return to 2025. So they put it as like another year.
That's interesting. I know.
But I'm sure in the first episode it was 2025. It's only once they've mentioned it that they can't get back to 2025 that the year wasn't. It was a year out.
They can't get back to a specific date, can they? So they can get back to the year 2025, but they can't get back to a specific date. Can we also talk about briefly Belinda? I thought the dynamic between them was like it was like go go go. I totally believed that dynamic. I loved her in this episode. I thought she was brilliant. She had like all of this agency as a companion. I think if it carries on like this, then we'll be looking back at this series and being like, Belinda Chowdhury was like an all-time companion, because I just thought the interplay was so good.
Yeah,
and I think they're both really good actors as well.
I think it's refreshing as well that the Doctor is kind of met his match in a sense. Someone that's not just going to kind of like whimsically go along for the ride. It's someone that has got a bit of a backbone, a bit of like a no, you're getting me back. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like Donna in a sense, a bit like Martha as well. She's kind of a bit of like, for me, a bit of like a merger of those two in a sense of that, her sensibility and, you know, her not stubbornness, but her kind of like refusal just to kind of like go along on this joy ride. It's like, no, you're taking me home.
And she's got a clear purpose.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
purpose is I just want to get home, which is like a really good arc, I think.
And we know we know something about her parents as well, so we're not going to have a cloaked figure try and point to find them or anything like that. But no, I think
that's how I know. That's how people name children, Jerome. They just point at road signs. Don't you know that?
I do now, thanks to Doctor Who. Yeah, no, I think the chemistry is really nice, really, really nice. I think it was a little bit, it was quite fast, as in from the first episode. I think this is a bit weird what you do, and I think you should take me home to, yeah, go on then. I think maybe there's a little bit, but then maybe that's something that like Big Finish will, do you know what I mean? Like, or there'll be like intersections with it. But no, on the whole, I think the two of them work really well together.
I kind of believed it in the sense that they landed there. They established there was a mystery. They landed there for a purpose. The Doctor was planting this like sci-fi thing to like get her home. And then because she's a normal human, she landed in it was the 1950s, right? The 1950s.
52.
Yeah, she landed in the 1950s. Your mind would be blown. You'd be like, yeah, like I think that's the first time that I've seen a companion like who's being dragged along reluctantly. I was like, oh, like I believe you. You do want to go. Of course, you want to go explore.
Yeah. I think as well. I actually thought this was one of Ncuti's strongest episodes. I felt like it was. I thought his performance was maybe like more. I don't know the word, but just like maybe slightly more mature, or he's like maturing into himself as the Doctor a bit more. Because there were a couple of like there was, because obviously we all know he's very energetic. We all know he's very kind of like, you know, personable and he's a confident Doctor. Do you know what I mean? Whereas some of the personalities are a bit nerdy and a bit kind of shy in times, or a bit weird. He's like, his Doctor's very confident. But I actually thought the scene with him and the woman who was playing, I can't remember the character's name. It was like Tommy Lee's mum in the diner. There were some beautiful lines in that, and just some beautiful kind of very like, it was just them. It was just them and the scene and kind of the context. And he had that beautiful line, I think, where he said, "I've toppled worlds, but sometimes I have to wait for others to topple theirs. In the meantime, I just shine." And it just very much felt like a line that was his Doctor. Like that was a line, like if you're going to go and buy a Doctor Who calendar that's got Ncuti Gatwa on it in 12 months, you know full well that line is going to be on one of those images. And I think it's going to be like a reflection of his Doctor. So I felt like maybe this was one of the first episodes where I was like, I get your Doctor, or like I know who your Doctor is a bit more than maybe like I did kind of learning, which is something I think maybe Jodie struggled from. Is that Jodie? I think a lot of Jodie's performances, for example, were great. I think she put in good performances, but sometimes the writing or the stories or whatever, like never fully formulated her Doctor. So it was kind of hard to say who her Doctor is. Or so I was talking with a friend recently, actually, and they were like, "I don't ever think I saw the 13th Doctor angry, or like a concept of anger." And I had to think about that, and I was like, "That's interesting." Or like talking about...
There's a great scene there's a scene where she's really pissed off. I'll send it to you.
Cool. Do. But yeah, no, but anyway, but like in terms of Ncuti, I thought this was I really enjoyed his performance in this. Yeah.
The scene, Jerome, is when, do you remember when she's talking to Tecteun, and Tecteun is like, I found you under that schism, and I adopted you. And then the 30th Doctor is like, someone could have been coming back for me. You had no right to do that, or something. Yeah. Do you remember that? It's a really good scene.
Vaguely. I probably need to go back and watch it.
You just blacked out. You blacked out during that. I'm gonna watch it out of commitment, but fuck this.
just who the fuck is Tecteun? What's going on?
So Yeah, I thought Ncuti Gatwa's performance in this was exactly what you said, Jerome. I thought it was more mature. Like I felt more like I understood his Doctor, and I really hope that that's why he's not leaving, because you need time with these actors. Like it's no good, in my opinion, like having a Doctor that's only sticks around for 2 years, because you only get 2 series, and then you don't really know. That's also what I thought about Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. I think she was, all in all, it was probably 5 years from her being cast to when she left. But in terms of how much Doctor Who you get during that time, she had, was it 2 series? No, she had 3 series, didn't she? She had 3 series and then a special. And I just don't think it's enough. I'm like, I just think you need more time with these iterations. Same with the companions. I just think you need more. You need a companion Doctor duo to be going on for like. I think you need a good 4 series, 5 series.
It definitely felt, it feels better to be back with one companion. I think sometimes what struggled with like Jodie's era, for instance, is having like 4 or 5 people in the TARDIS. Way too many. Even though it's like a huge space, but because like where do you focus the narrative? And yes, you can spread the narrative out over a series to like, you know, kind of like do different episodes for different people. But in terms of establishing those relationships and giving everyone the same amount of airtime, it's so difficult. Yeah. So I feel like when you have one companion and one, like it focuses the narrative a lot more away in a more effective manner, I think, for sure.
Unless you're a genius like Stephen Moffat and you can manage like Amy and Rory, because both those felt like full people in their own rights, and they were like a duo on the TARDIS for a bit, weren't they?
Yeah, but even then, like they're kind of the way we were introduced to them, because obviously you got time with just Amy for a while, and then Rory disappeared and then came back, and then, you know, wasn't real, or he was a Nestine, and all of this stuff. But yeah, it's just the way it's how you let those stories breathe, I guess, and ultimately, like, you need time, don't you? Like you have to have that time to be able to set those stories. But no, because I think like maybe in the first series, I think Ncuti's energy and performances have always been like very good. They've been like Doctor Who Formula 101. But I think maybe something that was a struggle for a little bit was his Doctor feels like noticeably more human than I would say others, which isn't like a bad thing, but it just feels, and I think it's kind of getting used to that, because like one of my favorite Doctors is probably actually Matt Smith, right? David obviously is iconic, but I actually really, really enjoyed Matt Smith. But Matt Smith is so alien, especially in the first couple of series he does. Like his Doctor just doesn't really know what's going on, or doesn't understand things, or gets confused, or like, you know, like does loads and loads of work for like an hour, and then he's like, can't do it. How do you live like this? Like he's very alien. Whereas like Ncuti's Doctor feels almost like he was kind of born out of therapy. You know, the bi-generation, he was almost like his Doctor exists to kind of sort of like go, you need to just, and there's also a human element there. Like 14's gone off to be kind of human with Donna's family. That like I'm getting used to that idea of maybe it being a more, not human character, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Like just a character that has more human instincts that maybe other iterations have done, and if they can be able to kind of get round to that. But I think this performance was, definitely did stuff for me, I think, in terms of just progressing that.
Well, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, in this series, or this era of Doctor Who, that Ncuti's Doctor is kind of like the aftermath, like you said, of the Flux and a whole lot of other stuff. It's kind of him coming to terms with the last few years of his life. So that's why we're seeing a more maybe tender, more emotional version of the Doctor we've never seen before. I think it definitely felt like, ever since he's come in, it felt like the most Doctor Who episode, the most Russell T Davies episode.
I agree.
The structure was absolutely there. Yes, it felt rushed, and to be honest, because I've been questioning this a lot ever since like it came back, thought, maybe it needs to spend a bit more time on this. But to be honest, maybe if I went back and watched some of the original Russell T Davies runs of the show, it is probably quite pacey as well, because you've got to get from point A to point B within about 5 minutes anyway. Within about, I've read your message, God.
Speed up, Dan.
But it had to hit those points quite fast. So kind of like, the difference in attitude with Belinda and the Doctor between episode 1 and episode 2 is quite fast, because they're going to have to, they are partners now, and it's like that's the way the show's going to go. So it has to be quite paced, I suppose, at a point. But I feel like structure wise, it felt the most familiar. It didn't feel different. and I feel like it's been trying a lot of different stuff ever since it came back. This is the one where I probably had the most faith in it, because I went, right, it's like a warm bath. I feel comfortable, I feel familiar, I feel like this is kind of how I remember it. I felt like from point A to point B, it hit everything it needs to hit very well.
I agree with you. I think it was a solid episode built around an extremely solid idea around Mr. Reading. So like the whole thing, like from the off, sounded great. So cast our eyes to next week. That looks really interesting. I don't know if you've seen the trailers. Looks like it's going to be more of a grounded horror episode. Again, heavily leaked and rumored that it's going to be a sequel to Midnight, which I'm personally really excited. So this is actually the episode in the series, maybe apart from the finale, that I'm looking forward to the most. I'm really excited. We don't know much about it apart from maybe what's leaked. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean I always love a horror episode in Doctor Who. So, and Midnight is iconic. I think a lot of I did notice from the trailer there is a lot of kind of close-ups going on, which is one of the big things in Midnight, where it was like on the face and kind of really kind of going into that thing. Because did they ever name the villain in Midnight?
No,
they didn't, did
so
they? It was
famously,
just the being, was it? Yeah.
The scariness about the being is that you never see anything really. There's one amazing scene where the shutters are coming down on the two like pilots of the little shuttle that are on, and the shutter's coming down. So the shuttle that they're on is going into lockdown, and one of the pilots, I don't know if you remember, goes, "What's that?" And then the shutter comes down, and then the other guy's like, "I didn't see anything." It's like, "No, I saw something." And then if you go back and rewind the scene and pause it, you think you can see something. It's very clever. Russell T Davies on Instagram did, in his preview for the next episode, picked a specific emoji, and the emoji was like a face, but it's white and it's like a ghost. So I'm wondering if it is the same thing, as in like something that isn't really there.
Jerome, out of 10, what do you rate LUX?
I'm going to rate LUX. I did really enjoy it. It's just a couple of things. Give it an 8.
Mike?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I would go for a solid 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have we been keeping track of these?
Hold on, Dan. Dan, bear in mind last week we did rate. No, hold on. What did we rate?
We rated 7.
7. Okay. Because I was going to take you up to task for rating them the same then, but actually you've given it.
Do we have a record of what we've said for all these? We should work out what the highest scoring one is.
Space Babies, 11 out of 10.
Space Babies has no rating because it needs no rating. It is and will forever be phenomenal.
Because it never aired. It doesn't exist.
It's not a twinkle in Russell's eye.
Thank you for joining us on another edition of Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube at Who Doesn't Pod. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. And signing off, we'll see you next week for our review of, can't remember the name off the top of my head.
The Well.
The Well.
The Well.